Ready to get started? All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Hebert with MassMEP Business Development Advisor. And hopefully Walker didn't scare everybody with his doom and gloom and data collection. But we have another fear-mongering story to tell you on cybersecurity. So we'll, the good news is yeah, it's scary stuff. You should be concerned with it. But the good news is we have John and Pete with Synagex that can help you do an assessment and help you with that problem. And we got Steve Donnelly with Patriot Armament Systems that also has a ransomware story to tell you about it. So we'll leave it up.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it is a scary topic. Hopefully I'm not going to freak you out too much. Hopefully we're not. I was kind of hoping that we were going to be able to fill this cooler up with beers and have a good time. I missed the boat on that one. So just, quick introduction, right? I'm the president and CEO of Synagex. We are a IT managed services company that focuses on cybersecurity, especially in the manufacturing space and the D&D supply chain. This is Peter Moore. He's the smart guy. I'm just the bagpipe here. He is our Chief Information Security Officer. I know we're going to dive into some pieces, some specifics about cybersecurity. Of course, Steve Donnelly, the president of Patriot Armament. He's one of our customers. He's a great story to tell you. He'll tell you a little bit about his business. Just to kick things off, cybersecurity. How do we feel about the topic?
Always changing.
Yeah. I said this last session. I was a little concerned. Anybody dealing with a cybersecurity issue right now, or have I sort of figured that at some point we're going to get somebody that's like, actually I signed up because we have a major issue. Yeah. All right, good. I'll start with an overview. It's a broad topic, right? When a lot of folks we talk to think about cybersecurity, they're kind of hoping or thinking that it's a practice or an acumen that's going to protect a business or an individual with some sort of a commodity, right? A shield. Cybersecurity is a shield.
I'm sorry.
She doesn't.
She disagrees with that. And so we like to kind of debunk that right away, right? Pete and I come from a long banking background, and so we have a lot of experience with risk management. And so when we think about cybersecurity, we are breaking down the practice into risk. What does that mean? Every one of your businesses, or even, I guess, personally, right? We need an asset to protect here. In a small business, that could be data. It could be private information in the DoD supply chain. It could be controlled unclassified information that has real national security risk. As we're thinking about protecting this mission-critical asset, we are identifying different layers to secure that. When we talk about that shield or that black box, I think a lot of folks are very focused on this sort of middle layer of our rainbow. We're thinking about our computers and viruses, and we're thinking about the network layer, right? The firewall is a common thing that we hear. We're thinking about our applications, right? The Salesforces of the world, or the ERP systems, and sort of how that's securing our information. While all of that is very important, a lot of times when we're talking about cybersecurity, we aren't focused on things like physical protection. So all of those other examples I gave you, if those are rock solid because you have the world's best IT company and they're laser focused on this impenetrable shield, well, if I can walk into your office and just grab some stuff off your desk, that matters, right? And this one on the outer layer that we think about is probably the one that's exploited the most. If we have a great network, right, our endpoints are secure, applications, great passwords, everything's secure, the doors are locked, nobody's accessing our data, but one of our users who has privileged access lets somebody in with a password, or guides them through a session that, is a suspect phone call. Well, none of that matters, right? We're still going to get access to that mission critical asset. So as Synagex is thinking about cybersecurity and defining it, we are looking at it with this lens, and we feel that this is a great way to sort of think about how you would address cybersecurity in your own businesses. It's not something you're just going to be able to plug in and fix. There's an acumen, some people processing tools that needs to be deployed. So Steve has some very real world experience with that. We were introduced to him in a way that we hope that we aren't introduced to most of our clients, but I think is a very relevant thing. We are introduced to many clients in that way. I think it's a great example of some of this things.
Yeah, sure. So I guess a real quick background on Patriot Armor. We're a manufacturer of bullet-resistant glass, security glass. We're located out in Berkshires, in Massachusetts. We've been in business 30, 40 years now. And our primary end customers, either directly or indirectly through our customers, is the Department of Defense and the Department of State. So we do a lot of glass for embassy buildings all over the world, Department of State. Also their armored vehicles. And then for DoD, we do the DoD vehicle fleet. Humvee vehicle, we do a lot of glass that goes into the windshields, the side windows. Really important stuff, protecting soldiers and critical diplomats around the world.
Very cool stuff.
Yeah. So we do a little bit of everything. Our customers are diverse, so I'd say about 50% of our customer base is DoD in the U.S. And then here domestically in the U.S., we do government buildings, courthouses, schools, office buildings, park like this, that glass that you see down there, that's safety glass down there. It's everywhere. And yeah, we serve a critical role. And we were introduced to these guys back in the fall of 2019. We actually had a ransomware attack on our network at the time. So we really had no in-house IT expertise. Yeah, we had a plant manager who knew enough about IT and networking to kind of make ends meet for the previous 15 years before that attack. And yeah, we had a ransomware attack. We were essentially shut down. We were referred to these guys. They moved pretty quickly. They came in and I think it was over a weekend, kind of got us back up and running the following Monday. Then it was a couple of days, couple of weeks to kind of reassess and kind of plan from there what the best course of action was to get everything fully restored. But we were lucky because they helped us kind of skirt around that attack. And it wasn't at the time, it wasn't something that we really gave much thought to. We were just trying to make as much glass and time line as we could to get it out to our customers. And IT was always an afterthought for the most part. So shortly thereafter, we brought these guys in as kind of our managed IT service provider. So we were no longer going to rely on in-house, expertise, right? We were going to have some professionals in and have them kind of manage our infrastructure. And I'd say over the last 18 to 24 months, we've been working on CMMC compliance with these guys. We did an assessment through MassMEP that kind of shed some light on just more vulnerabilities that existed in our system. And these guys came in and made recommendations on tools and processes to kind of make us a little bit more robust on the IT side. So we've been kind of knocking down projects, I'd say, over the last 18 months. Some of them very basic, some of them higher level, but really trying to beef up our infrastructure so that we can support DoD and DOS the way that they expect, because they expand. There's a high expectation there at this point that maybe didn't exist 10 years ago. So yeah, we rely on these guys to help us make sure that we're running our business and keeping things safe and secure.
Question, how did you know you had an attack?
Yep.
And what vulnerability did they take?
So it was an incoming email to a customer service representative. She opened it up, clicked the link, and they got in that way.
And what happened? Was customer service rep sitting there? What happened?
Yeah. I mean, as far as like the actual the nuances of how what was compromised, these guys can probably speak to it better than I can.
I think if memory serves me, the business was essentially shut down, right? It encrypted QuickBooks, right?
Yep.
It encrypted files. It kind of shut them down. So it was very apparent that something bad had happened. The actual variation or variant, I don't recall exactly what it was. At this point, sometimes it's relevant, right? Because it changes every day these days. The name of it, you could call it like Spybot G32 WM blah blah blah. At the end of the day, we have a business who's got encrypted files. Access is completely shut down. And in this case, unfortunately, there wasn't a business resumption technology that was very easy for us to snap things back, which is why the team had to, over the weekend, kind of piece things together, put it back. We were fortunate in that case that the information was recoverable, but ideally, that would have been something that was avoidable. You're always sort of concerned about what information was exfiltrated, and we don't want to have to, I guess, worry about that in the first place, right? So what we do, and with our clients and with Steve now, is to make sure that we have security layering around there, so that if any of our rainbow is compromised, because it will be, right? This is not a topic that's black and white. We will have layers compromised. That we have processes, we have tools, we have the ability to recover faster, and have insurances that damage is very limited.
And in that case, they were able to kind of determine where it had come in. The risk had been in this email that someone clicked on. Oftentimes, that event happened months, maybe even a year ago. That ransomware, the threat has been exposed, or your network's opened, and then that they deployed some kind of a malware tool that's learning about your network. So it could sit there for so long without the right tool set in place to identify that. So you have no idea that it's out on your systems until that day you come in and it's like locked down. If it's been over a period of time like that, do your backups also have encrypted data on that I can't recover from now? So the longer it's been on your systems without being recognized, the bigger risk it is to your overall functionality.
That's a great point. We're going off script.
Yeah.
But that's a great point, and that's how we see a lot of these things happening in real life. It's not always that it's just a link, click, and something happened. It's something happened, 4 months ago. We got privileged access just by hanging out here, getting some information, and then there's a payload, right? That happens. So making sure that in your business environments you have proper acumen and tooling around those different layers, so that even if something is sitting there, as somebody's looking around, we can identify an anomaly, contain the issue before something happens. That's the appropriate way to think about cybersecurity, right? There's probably something already living in an environment that you own. You have to make sure that we have enough sentry out there to identify and contain those issues.
And I like the small groups, so
Yeah.
we can go off topic and talk about other things too. My slide deck here, one of the things I just wanted to point out is it's often misconception that I'm a small business. Do I really have to worry about this? Am I even on the radar of any of these threat actors? Are they going to come after us? And absolutely yes. It's the fact that you're a small business that you are on their radar. Oftentimes, a small business like technology alone, will technology alone save me? No, it won't. A person could click on something and let it into the environment. So with that small business, there's oftentimes not the technology investment to protect those systems at the same as a higher level organization. Other than Steve's, who were often coming in similar events, and another one that was on a system for a period of time, and small business gets locked down from ransomware. How long are you going to be down and without that? So you got to, without access to your systems and your data. So planning isn't worth the investment now, rather than later on when you're trying to recover from it. Cybersecurity threats for 2023. This is a typical list. We're often seeing malware, so malware, virus software, or viruses are always at the top of the list. Social engineering, that personal aspect, and what if I'm phishing for something and you're clicking on that link and allowing someone in, which allows for that ransomware. But the two new ones, they've been around for a while, but they're now at the top of the list. The top cybersecurity threats of 2023 are supply chain vulnerabilities and the IoT, where we heard earlier discussion was the IoT, industrial Internet of Things. So those devices, the PLCs, the HMI machines, those things that are on your operational technology, as he put it, the kind of concrete floor versus your carpeted floor environment. I will use that again.
So we talked a little bit about what you do. Do you own small businesses in the manufacturing space?
No, I'm actually here a little bit at random. I'm a like a third removed party from this, but I'm fundraising for an organization that is working on a program to start training workers to do manufacturing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Got it.
But I
Good.
do find this interesting, and I was working previously for the Middlesex District Attorney, and I know we dealt as an office with a lot of this too.
Oh yeah,
so it's-
yeah, that's fun. That's fun for a lot.
And as an individual, of course, too, I get all kinds of things. So.
Yeah, got it.
Manufacturer of 3D printers. 3D printers. About 50 people in the company.
Excellent. Good.
Independent consultant, but I've been in the CAD/CAM PLM space for the better part of 40 years. Great hair, but no.
We
But I
learned
was
some things.
curious about your assessment piece. Is that something that you're doing as part of the answering the question, what's your digital strategy? I mean, it's pretty integral, and it covers these systems plus a lot of upfront systems too. So I was curious, is that an assessment you folks do specifically, or is it in tandem with MassMEP?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for the softball. That was-
Yeah. Well, sometimes I don't know, because then there's in-house expertise that gets built too, so
That's right.
I've seen it
No,
both ways.
That's right. We have a wonderful relationship with MassMEP and do those. I guess we talk about that a little bit right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, we have as John said, we have a great relationship with the folks at Synagex, Ian and John, as well as the rest of their team. We can help you access grant funding for this, so again, it's a third-party relationship. You work with them, you contract through us.
Yeah.
The grant funding, depending on the size of your company, is either 50% funding or 100% funding, and I'd be glad to help you with that application. It's very simple. I can walk you through it in about 15 or 20 minutes, and we pass it off to these guys to help you.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I want to ask what you do. I'm sorry for prying, but we want to make sure that we're delivering the appropriate material. I think a lot of what we're saying is intended to be targeted at the small manufacturer business owner. I know we.
So my name is Nesson from the University of Connecticut.
Yeah. Excellent.
I run a DOE program called Industrial Assessment Center,
Yeah.
which does energy assessments for small, medium-sized manufacturers. There's an IAC in UMass Amherst as well. But one of the things we do is we send a cybersecurity awareness survey, a questionnaire developed by DOE to the manufacturers to help raise their awareness, and it has it's kind of 21 or 22 questions.
Yeah.
People, process, technology. I'm very interested to see how the
That's the same stack we use. People, process, and
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And yeah, then the two automatic gives high risk, medium risk, or low risk, and we provide the results to the manufacturer so they know, or they can think about what to do next. But so I'm very interested to
Okay,
hear
good.
from experts about this.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. It's really helpful for us. So I think what Pete's trying to highlight here today is obviously something that should, if I own a small manufacturing company, is a little concerning to me, right? Because there's even the newer technology that I'm assuming you're using as a 3D printer manufacturing company, right? There's connected devices, right, that are on the top 5 list here of attacked assets, right? So as an IT company, obviously we spend a lot of time looking at networks and computers and some of those endpoints. Well, I mean, IoT devices on the shop floor, around the shop floor, the Alexa devices that we have in the executive office because it's super cool. These are things that are being attacked because they're not managed as tightly, right? The updates on these things, the security and isolation around these assets is typically lax, and it's an easy target, and we're seeing that it's probably going to be on top of this list at some point.
And then that calling out the supply chain vulnerabilities for someone that's manufacturing 3D printers, that could be a big concern. You're getting chip development, you're getting software development that might go into these printers. So where are you getting a chip that isn't what you thought or that was coming from, that it's a counterfeit chip, and that counterfeit chip could have come from China with a bit of code that would allow it to be a built-in vulnerability, basically. So, which 75% of the industrial control system devices are unpatched and severely vulnerable. That's where the vulnerabilities are coming from. They rolled out with a certain set of firmware that's been on it for 10, 15 years, and that's why we're seeing them explode now. That number of industrial control system vulnerabilities. Actually, the next slide. That year to date, there have been a typical year. It's actually been almost doubling year to year. So over the last few years, we'd see 800, 1,000 vulnerabilities in an entire 12-month period. Since the beginning of the year, we're now in May. At the beginning of May, there had been 1,000 industrial control system vulnerabilities already identified. I think we may have even doubled possibly in the month of May. So there's a company out there called CISA. They monitor this and do a lot of reporting on this type of vulnerability. Daily, I receive an email on a number of new vulnerabilities identified. So these vulnerabilities are in your PLC and your HMI devices, things that are attached in that industrial control system.
Can you just give an example what you mean?
So if I put a piece of code out, I had, say in Steve's example, someone clicks on a link in an email. They were able to compromise by sending a piece of malware. Maybe the industrial or the IT side of things, so your ERP systems and your accounting systems were rock solid. They had good security, didn't allow anything in. But I'm on one PC, and I've gotten access to that. Now I'm going to start looking for other vulnerabilities, other ways to spread laterally. So the industrial control side is sitting out there with a way that, I can actually start getting like admin level access and start to almost monitor what other traffic is flowing across the network. So they're using the industrial control side as a means to gather other data or other credential information that would further expose the rest of the network.
Right. I mean, if we think about a lot of these devices, right, it's simply computers, but they're not computers running Windows, right? They're running maybe Linux, maybe they're a code snippet on a chip, right? Those devices are going to have some vulnerability, right? They're not intended, to secure. They may not even be devices that can be updated to provide security. Those are easy targets, right? If we infiltrate a network and can talk to that device and attack that Linux machine that's been there for 15 years, with all these ports listening, it's an easy target in comparison to the attention we're focused on the IT side.
So they tend to be used as a tool to attack that other side, the IT side of your network. And if IT and OT, so operational technology, if this is new to you versus information technology, those two different networks, typically they were two different networks. In a small business, so that OT is all that operational technology, that CNC machine that's out there to produce a part out on the shop floor versus your accounting system that's on the other side of the organization. In a perfect world, they were kept separate and one didn't affect the other. Now, and you heard them talk about earlier, the merge of that. So as we bring those two technologies together, we're automating more of the shop floor. We have to be aware of what risks are we introducing and are we protecting both sides of the network well. So OT, operational, IT, back office information.
I don't think you got to hit on that point, but I was excited for it. I know he went over time, but yeah, I think that was something that he had. I'm going to try to catch him before he leaves. I think he had some sort of a hot point about sort of that as an issue. We totally agree.
So from that standpoint, what are the things we need to be aware of? So identifying the assets. We're going into organizations to perform these assessments, cybersecurity and gap assessments, and they're not even aware if that device is connected to the network. Is that CNC machine on there? So identifying all those assets, not just your computer assets on the network, but everything connected. And then once we've identified that, where are our risks? What do we need to protect? So do we need to implement a tool set that will kind of separate or segment those two systems from each other? And then monitoring of all that, so having a tool in place to gather log information. So I know how long it's been up and running, when was it last patched. If there's a known vulnerability, we use a tool called Rocket Cyber that plugs into all this, that would say, oh, I know that device hasn't had a firmware update in such and such period of time, and it would alert up to bring attention to that so that we're going out and patching that. Because oftentimes those IoT devices, like John said, they have no capability to say, hey, there's a known vulnerability, but what's the tool to actually patch it? So we'd have to find a solution to take care of that side as well. So ransomware, somehow someone clicks on an email, gets into your environment. What are some of the risks from that point? Maybe everything's very tight, but I got onto your desktop and I need to find a way to laterally spread. And we think, hey, we just logged into Amazon or whatever that site was, and I stored my password in my Chrome or in my web browser, Chrome, Edge, Firefox, whatever it might be. So I put together a little example of the risk of using a web or a browser-based password manager. Yes, it's encrypted. The data is encrypted in there, but it's very easily decrypted and exposed in the event that your machine has been compromised in some way. So I'm not a programmer. I've learned different snippets of code over the years, but I was interested in this, and I I spoke to some students locally about this kind of attack, and went out and thought, well, how difficult is this? So I went out and found Python, which is a programming code, very popular programming code now, repository of code, and located a Chrome password extraction tool, just showing you that it's easily available online. Anyone could go out and do it. All I did was cut and paste this code. I had to put it on a machine and compile it. Very easily read through it and noticed where I could change an email address to send your passwords to me. I'm just showing you in real time that my Gmail mailbox is empty right now. There was nothing in it. I jump over to a test machine where I compiled this code, this Python code, created this script. This script could be executed from that link in an email, in Steve's example, or from drawing you to a website that's a compromised website. You click on something. In this example, you use Google Chrome, so I browse over to settings in Google, show you, I have 3 sample websites with their passwords stored here. If I click on one, it is encrypted. No one could just go in and access that data while being connected to the PC. I have to authenticate on the PC at an admin level, and then I'm able to see whatever that password was. Click on the script, so however I've enticed you to launch that script, it's scraping all those passwords out that were in that password manager and emailing it directly to me. When I click on the email, I now have a clear text list of whatever passwords you stored in that so-called encrypted and protected password manager.
It's kind of a pretty simple way that any smart student could go Google. I want to get these passwords. Figured that out. Got you to click on it. A little black screen pops up. Boom. Right. We have access to everything that's stored. we don't love browser passwords for this reason. And I think what we showed you is that did require password access. But because we got you to click on that link as an authorized user, we were able to scrape it and send it out. And highly likely that that's also your Amazon password or something, your eBay password, and you have a bunch of new stuff for Christmas this year.
Your account password.
Good to point out though is as you were sort of running through this simulation that we had a lot of security systems flagging, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So you know, I think that example's been around for a little while. So a lot of security systems that you have in place, you can flag it, knock that down. It's a layer of protection, but you know, you were able to isolate that, run it on another system, right?
Right.
So a lot of these tools that we're employing and that we're IT companies like ours are putting into business environments will help against a lot of simple things like that. I don't want you to go back and feel like, hey, this is a huge risk for us. Everybody needs to tear down their browser passwords. But we just wanted to sort of highlight an example of how a human layer compromise can lead to something so powerful.
Yeah.
So easy.
I couldn't just click on that. I couldn't send that script through Gmail. Gmail caught it and said, it's not like typical virus software identifies things as by a file definition, that it's a known virus, so just checks it against that. This is suspicious enough code that the new advanced threat protection tools are identifying it. So I tried to just send it to myself, so I'll get it in my email, click on it, it wouldn't. Gmail blocked it out. And even things like Microsoft Edge, or what's the default Microsoft virus software we use? Defender. We use either SentinelOne or WebRoot for our clients. All three of those tools picked up that there was something suspicious in that code. That doesn't keep me though from, like John said, I could set up a web server that draws you to click on a link and it's executing that code either remotely or forwarding that code in a different manner to get that to launch. And the advanced threat tools and AI type embedded SentinelOne is one of those that is using a bit of artificial intelligence now to identify things other than definite virus definitions. So something that looks suspicious and could be a threat to your systems.
Yeah, we're in a place, I think, where a lot of tooling's evolving, right? There are a lot of software companies out there that are giving us opportunities to deal with these sorts of issues, but nothing that's so comprehensive, right, that we can totally rely on it. We do a lot of work in the DoD space, and you know, from a national defense perspective, I think that our country feels like we may be a little bit behind to cybersecurity as a country, and so I think over time, you know, there may be more opportunities to have, you know, tooling that is a little bit more on the offensive side of cybersecurity, so that we don't have to be so risk averse. But an appropriate way to be thinking about it now is that we're not there, right? A little paranoia and sort of being extra cautious in where you're clicking on things is prudent. I know we're running tight on time, and we definitely want some time for questions. We got about 6 minutes left. Yeah, awesome. Is there anything that we should be focusing on, or any targeted questions?
I was just curious from my experience, so these applications that you have, would you run all the way into marketing, who has requirements management that feeds design, manufacturing, like the full product life cycle before it releases to manufacturing? There's a ton of iterations of things that go on there, and I was curious, do your assessments map into all those applications as well?
I want to make sure I understand it appropriately. So meaning some of the guidance or some of the tooling that we would deploy first for a department that does a lot.
Right. It's kind of full life cycle, so it's from concept right through end of life of the product. I mean, it's the full Monty.
Often the assessment, the cybersecurity assessment we're performing now is based on for DoD. So we're performing CMMC, which is Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, or NIST 800-171. Very specific focus with a certain control set that you're assessing to. I think so. They don't always account for all of those systems, but if we're going to assess well, we have to take into account. So it's going to be different for every organization. So I want to take a close look at how are you doing it versus another
So
organization.
you get different flavors of
Yeah.
it too, yeah, makes sense.
We do business with software development companies that have similar issues, right? As you're developing software, we're all over the place, right? And we're writing code that could be identified as risky sometimes, and these systems can really get in the way. The way we like to think about it is there's always this balance between security and convenience. But in today's world, right, I do believe that we, as a company, need to start thinking about sacrificing some of that convenience for the sake of security until we're in a better place, right? Because if we don't, the risk is much higher than the reward. Yep. So there's a balance. I'm not, you know, we're not. There are almost zero companies that we're working with that are at full deployment. The DoD would say you are the shining star for CMMC compliance. There's always that balance.
Yeah. Yep. I want to call out to, I didn't put a slide in here about a tool that very key to this. So in my example, I scraped some passwords, but what would be the best tool to protect from that? Multi-factor authentication. So if you're, people struggle with it, like, oh, it's an extra step. It's slowing down my day or my process. Every time my machine locks, I have to re-authenticate with it. But if I got your whole list of passwords, what's the first thing that's gonna get in my way? Multi-factor.
Something called, you heard of Okta?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So it's something that former company used most recently.
Yeah, we rolled that out to our entire shop, down to the shop floor level, all the machines, everything. They all have to use either a push to your phone or a
Yeah.
little token.
And they all cheered when we deployed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You can play it for a few days, but it just becomes part of the daily routine.
But all you need is one illustration of getting that hitting the teeth with that, and then that's minimum.
Right.
Right. So it's,
Did you have a question?
I did. I was kind of curious. I mean, we were talking earlier during the meeting about industry, Internet of Things.
Yeah.
What are some of the customers coming to you about regarding IoT?
They often don't talk to us about those high IoT things, so we're coming in late to the conversation and then trying to identify how are you utilizing those, how can we better secure that. So yeah, it would be best if we were brought in, and that's what we try to do with Synagex, is be that partner that we're being brought in on those strategic conversations so we're aware of what's coming into the environment. But at times it's hard to identify that someone just wanted to play music in their lobby and they put a Sonos device in and never patch it, and what kind of vulnerability is that going to bring in? So we often run, and CMMC in particular, requires that you're running an annual or more often vulnerability scan of the system. So that put a device on the network to go out and search and identify everything that's connected. If this TV is connected to that network, is it there? Are there known vulnerabilities for that?
But so the most common danger is focused on people bringing in their own devices and trying to connect them to the network. So
It is tough. I mean, we're IT, right? We're revenue generating. Everybody wants to come to us first when they want to put something cool on the network. Never, right? I think the important thing is to have a partner or a strategy and a plan, and the people, process, and tools, right, to be able to deal with those situations. If you don't have that foundation, right, you don't have a good partner that can help you at least be conscious of some of those things as you're bringing in devices, it can be very difficult to manage. So I think we're at the end. I want to make sure that we have a chance to talk about our QR code, right? Make sure that
Yeah, so we have a QR code up on the screen. If you could open your cell phones, scan the QR code and do the evaluation, just to let us know what you thought about this presentation. Hope you found it fairly informative.
Yeah.
Yes, we've had an impact. I think that's a highlight.
Is it working?
Yeah. Can we rate the attendees as well?
Yeah.
Yes, seriously.
So again, as they said, I mean, it's a little bit scary. The good news is, you know, John and Pete and his team can do an assessment for you. Whether you're a big company, small company, in the DoD world or not, I think you should do the assessment anyway, just to just so you know where your gaps are, know what you need to target, know how to be safe in the future. And again, that's something that we can help you with funding through Workforce Training Fund grants. I can help you with that. Lisa can help you with that. We'd be glad to help you. This is my information. If you'd like to scan that, that'll give you my email, my cell phone.
That's okay.
Be glad to,
Come on
be
in.
glad to talk to you and help.
Yeah, we're just wrapping
We're
this
just-
one up, but no, it's okay.
No worries.
Yeah, make yourself comfortable. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
For your time today.